Welcome to Living the Creative Act, episode 10, where we read Rick Rubin's The Creative Act and apply it to our lives as software developers. Today's section is called The Beginner's Mind, and let's hop right into the reading. Some 3,000 years ago, in China, the strategic board game of Go was developed. Some believe warlords and generals based it on the stones they'd place on maps to determine their battle plans. Besides being the oldest continuously played board game in human history, it's also one of the most complex. In modern times, beating this game became known in the artificial intelligence community as the Holy Grail, since the number of possible configurations on the board is larger than the number of atoms in the universe. It was believed computers didn't have the processing power needed to beat a skilled human player. Rising to the challenge, scientists built an artificial intelligence program called AlphaGo. The program learned to play by teaching itself, studying more than 100,000 past games. It then played against itself over and over until it was ready to challenge the reigning grandmaster of the game. In move 37 of the second match, the machine was faced with a decision that would determine the way the rest of the game was played. There were two apparent choices to be made. Choice A was the kind of move that would signal the computer was playing a game of offense. Choice B would signal it was playing a defensive game. Instead, the computer decided to make a third move, a move no one steeped in the game had ever made in thousands of years of play. Not a single human player would have chosen Move 37, one commentator said. Most thought it was a mistake or simply a bad move. The Grandmaster playing against the machine was so taken aback, he stood up and walked out of the room. He eventually returned, not with his usual confident composure, but visibly shaken and frustrated by the experience. In the end, AlphaGo won the game, and that never-been-seen-before move, experts said, was the one that turned the course of the game in the favor of the AI. In the end, the computer won 4 out of 5 matches, and the Grandmaster permanently retired from the competition. Editor's note, he's talking about Yi Sedol, and he actually retired 3 years later. It wasn't right away. And there's actually the documentary about this is actually pretty interesting, and it's free on YouTube. It's about an hour and a half. Getting back to the reading. Upon first hearing this story, Rick Rubin writes, I found myself in tears and confused by the sudden swell of emotion. After further reflection, I realized that the story spoke to the power of purity in the creative act. What was it that allowed a machine to devise a move no one steeped in the game had ever been made in thousands of years of play? It wasn't necessarily its intelligence. It was the fact that the machine learned the game from scratch, with no coach, no human intervention, no lessons based on an expert's past experience. The AI followed the fixed rules, not the millennia of accepted cultural norms attached to them. It didn't take into account the 3,000-year-old traditions and conventions of Go. It didn't accept the narrative of how to properly play the game. It wasn't held back by limiting beliefs. And so this wasn't just a landmark event in AI development. It was the first time Go had been played with the full spectrum of possibilities available. With a clean slate, AlphaGo was able to innovate, devise something completely new, and transform the game forever. If it had been taught to play by humans, it most likely wouldn't have won the tournament. One Go expert commented, "After humanity spent thousands of years improving our tactics, computers tell us that humans are completely wrong. I would go as far as to say not a single human has touched the edge of truth of Go." Editor's note, this is Ko Jie, another super famous Go player who actually defeated Lee Sedol in a few matches. I don't know why he doesn't write the names of these very famous players. But anyway, Rick Rubin writes, "To see what no human has seen before, to know what no human has known before, to create as no human has created before, it may be necessary to see as if through eyes that have never seen, know through a mind that has never thought, create with hands that have never been trained. This is the beginner's mind, one of the most difficult states of being to dwell in for an artist, precisely because it involves letting go of what our experiences have taught us. Beginner's mind is starting from a pure childlike place of not knowing, living in the moment with as few fixed beliefs as possible, seeing things for what they are as presented. Tuning into what enlivens us in the moment instead of what we think will work, and making our decisions accordingly. Any preconceived ideas and accepted conventions limit what's possible. We tend to believe that the more we know, the more clearly we can see the possibilities available. This is not the case. The impossible only becomes accessible when experience has not taught us limits. Did the computer win because it knew more than the grandmaster, or because it knew less? There's a great power in not knowing. When faced with a challenging task, we may tell ourselves it's too difficult, it's not worth the effort, it's not the way things are done, it's not likely to work, or it's not likely to work for us. If we approach a task with ignorance, it can remove the barricade of knowledge blocking progress. Curiously, not being aware of a challenge may be just what we need to rise to it. Yeah, I love beginnings. And this was a really fun chapter. When I play board games, I'm usually strongest at the beginning. And, another person in my board game group, he's really strong at the end. So it's like, do I get a better start, or does he have a better finish? But that's neither here nor there. I did want to talk about what we think will work, as he mentions on slide, I think it was 18. Because I feel like this is a big tension in social media of, do we present our authentic selves, or do we present what we think people will like? And there's incentives on both sides. I think ideally, when we present our authentic self, it will resonate with the whole world, and that would be amazing. Because it seems like whatever I'm doing is not the right thing. Because, hey, look, I don't have millions and millions of followers, some might say. I'm not sure I believe that, though. I feel like this is what I'm doing. I'm expanding my creative capacity live and sharing that journey with you all. And I'm really grateful that folks are here to share the journey with me. But also, I think I would be doing this even without an audience. Is that true? I mean, I did the live coding thing for like about a year before changing it up. And I did have people that would stick around for that, but I ended up not liking it as much. And I feel like this is closer to what I want to do. I'm exploring something, but I don't know exactly what it is. It's something about being more creative, being more sincere, and doing that. And I still code, and I might even do some live coding again in the future. This is what I'm doing now. Let's see. Yeah, so that was the what we think will work bit. And I also wanted to talk about the beginner's mind when it comes to therapy, like therapy with a psychologist or psychiatrist. I feel like the beginner's mind here is going back to those moments when we were taught a limiting belief by, I don't know, society or parents or teachers or something, and reteaching ourselves in that moment something new or something less limiting at any rate. And I feel like that's why this book really resonates with me, because it's like you're creating healing by doing something like that in therapy. And so like you're creating a better you, a better self. And that's the artwork in this case, is creating a more healed person. Like if I wasn't taught a limiting belief and instead was offered sympathy or understanding in a difficult situation as a baby, would I have turned out differently? Perhaps. And that's what's beautiful about going back to those moments as an adult, is we can parent ourselves. We can teach ourselves something new. For me, with the help of a therapist. I don't know if this is too abstract. I know therapy is sort of more common these days than, say, 30 years ago. And I personally have benefited a lot from it. But it wasn't easy finding a helpful therapist. The first several I worked with were, let's say, not helpful. And in a similar way that we heal our inner child, if you will, in therapy, I feel like a lot of those same skills seem to work in conflict resolution too, of listening to the other person's experience. Oh, thank you so much for the good vibes. Listening to the other person's experience as a beginner, because I don't know them as well as they know themselves. No matter who it is, really, they've known themselves longer than I've known them. And if I'm listening as a beginner to their experience, then I'm not adding to the conflict by disagreeing. I might not be fixing anything, but I'm not making it worse by listening, which means they feel heard, which is often, in my experience, one of the sources of conflict. Of someone doesn't feel heard about something. And at least for me, one of the limiting beliefs has been, if I'm wrong, then that means I'm a bad person. And I don't want to be a bad person. I want to be a good person. So I need to defend how I'm not wrong, or defend how what I was doing was understandable or correct. And in my experience, that just gets in the way of conflict resolution with a peer. Not sure I have the same recommendation for working with like a manager or a government or something. I guess I'm specifically talking about interpersonal relationships. Yeah, so there's a lot to talk about here. Like, I didn't even touch on the AI bits that he's talking about. I guess my thing with AI is the consent bit. Like, how can someone opt in or opt out of their work being slurped up by an AI? But I do like the idea of creating something to help you look at something in a different way. And yeah, that was kind of cool how he pointed that out in this passage here. Cactus Crate says, if publicly available, it's already slurped. Yeah, I know. And that's totally weird, right? It's like if you have to, the incentive is to publish something free and open so that you have a chance to go viral, so there's no barriers to people discovering your work. And then later, I don't know, you sell t-shirts or something. Later you sell something, but at the beginning, you're just trying to get your name out there. And now that that incentive is turned on its head because of AI slurping up everything. It's like, hey, create a full queue developer stream with some scenery and some commentary. Like, I guess you could tell an AI to do that. Which is weird. If there's no way to opt out, if there's no way to meaningfully consent, then, I mean, we have a lot of nasty words for those sort of things in English, you know. So I'm not sure what the solution is here. I mean, this all becomes not a problem if if food and clothes and housing was not gatekept. That's really the core of the issue. We have enough of those things. It's just gatekept behind money, which is a soapbox for another time.